Aaron Flint here. Thanks for being with us here for this new podcast that we're launching. You know, many of you might know me from the Montana Talks statewide radio show. And over the years, I've gotten to chat with so many incredible folks right here in Montana. And you get to hear them over the radio. Well, now I'm thinking with this new video podcast, the Flint Report, coming to you. I like to joke that we're here at FOB Flathead here today. And first off, big thanks to the Deliver Fund, incredible counter-human trafficking organization for letting us use these podcast studios here. We got some Thrivers coffee in the coffee mug as well. But I was thinking as we launched this video podcast, who are just some of the incredible people I've gotten a chance to talk to, you maybe got a chance to hear over the years. Well, let's give you a chance to see him in person as well. And I'll tell you what, this is one of them right here. Ray Thompson. He is a legend here in Montana, the founder of Semitool, an incredible business here in the Flathead Valley, incredible entrepreneurial success story. But even if you put all that aside, even if that never happened, he's just a great American. Ray, it's great to see you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Aaron. Great to be with you.
You know, when I travel the state, I'll get a lot of people, they'll say, Aaron, you know, you do this statewide radio show. Who are some of the best guests you've ever had on the show? And we've had some big guests. I mean, recently I just had, you know, another Trump administration official on the show. But to me, the best part of the show are the random phone calls. It's the random moments. It's not even the big guests you get on the show. And I remember this was probably back in, 2012. It was a big election year. And I get a phone call from one of our very left-wing listeners, and he was ranting and raving. I can't believe this Ray Thompson, that he's, you know, one of these rich Republicans helping out with these with the Tea Party movement. And I said, let me tell you about Ray Thompson. And I told him a story about Libby, Montana, and some workers that were driving all the way from Libby, Montana, to Kalispell on icy, snowy roads. And then I go to a quick commercial break, and who's next up on the phone lines? Well, let's go to Ray in Kalispell, and it was you.
Oh boy,
it was so fun though.
Those
because
Libby folks were amazing, and I just I'm not much of a manager. I'm a leader. But the only managing I did was managing by walking around, MBWA, and I happened to be doing that. And I overheard this conversation about these people that were driving down from Libby. They're working there, and we worked 4 10-hour days, and so that would make it a little more doable for them. Except it was fall, about the time of this year right now, and winter was coming, and they were driving dark to dark. And animals and ice and I went. I said, what? We have people from Libby? How many? They said 32. I said, wow. We got to find some place up there for them to work, and we can move parts and materials back and forth during the daylight hours, once or twice a week or whatever we need, and it'll be the right thing to do. So, and I was thinking that. The mill was closed down there, and that maybe there'd be a corner in one of their buildings, you know, that we could operate out of. And so I had Dave Jolly go up there and the Libyans find, and it turned out to be the perfect building, like 7,500 square feet, just right, in a great location, and there in Libby, and it was for sale for $270,000, and oh man, it was just the perfect setup for us. We bought it and started getting them working up there, and they were just absolutely the best. So great.
And that was the story that I shared. I said, let me tell you about this guy, Ray Thompson. And this was, several years ago now. I said, this is a guy, when he found out he had all these employees that were commuting back and forth. That's a 90-mile drive from Libby, roughly. And imagine in snowy, icy roads, driving at dark. I mean, and he said, hey, you know what? Why don't we build a facility there so you don't have to drive back and forth? This is somebody who cares about people and cares about the people that he works for. Yeah. So you founded Semitool and grew it into, I forget, I like to think that we're kind of unscripted and unapologetically American around here. We're just a couple of guys having a conversation. We got no notes in front of us here. So I forget, you ended up building up the company and you sold it for, I forget, $1, $2, $3 billion, something like that.
350 million, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just crazy how successful. But when you combine the wealth that brought into Montana and the jobs that created in Montana, and talk about how you started that business.
Well, it's it's an interesting beginning. It was my second business. I started my first one in '71. I had been working as a chief engineer for a Teflon company, and designing all kinds of things out of Teflon, including the bearings that the London Bridge in Havasu City sit on. Seismic activity and hot days, cold nights, and those Teflon bearings take care of all that. But that's the kind of thing I did. Well, in '71, business was slow. They let me go, but they also let a sales guy go. And so Dick and I got together, and he suggested I call Bob there at Western Electric, Bell Labs in Allentown, see if I could get that order for these renter-dryer machines. Called him up, and he said, tell them they let me go. And he said, Ray, what can I do? I said, well, we're going to make a new, better machine. Send me drawings. Let me see if I can get that order stopped. You know, one of the words that needs to be changed in America is the word sales or salesman. It kind of implies a lot of things it's really relationship, the way business is done in America. And that cornerstone of that relationship is trust, which is why profit is important. So that when your project isn't going well, the worst you can do is give him his money back and apologize for wasting his time, but hopefully you can get it fixed.
You got a cushion there.
And you can make it work. And we did a lot of machines for companies that made them beat their competition. In fact, the very first machine we made, Semitool and I brought up here, was a little renter dryer. And Micron Tech, they were a brand new company at the time, as we were, down in Boise. And Simplot, the potato guy, was the primary owner. Anyway, they got one of our new machines, and they bought 20 more, just like that. And I thought, whoa, I thought, one of the reasons I came up here, I thought we'd be only making 10 or 15 a month because it only did 25 wafers where my old machines did 100. Well, it turned out, though, there were 3-inch wafers then, and they would get 95 good chips off of a wafer with my machine and 45 with the machines they were using. So, yeah, they wanted more.
But you basically started this whole business out of your backyard, essentially.
Well, and actually the den of my house down in California. And we won't go into it here, but I actually started in another project making in chip assembly with a Russian from Leningrad that I'd hired previously, 54 years old. Boy, did I learn a lot about Soviet Union from him, and a lot of interesting stuff. But anyway, we had to stop on that project, and I designed a new machine, took it down to Burroughs. We don't have Burroughs anymore, They had a fab down in Rancho Bernardo, and this guy marked up some wafers, and it cleaned them up in 20 seconds. And that's when I knew that I had a machine. And on my drive home, I said, I'm taking this back home. Left Montana in '58. This is 21 years later, and I'm getting back home with this. I told my wife we're going up to Montana.
And this is where you decided to really launch the business, grow the business. And,
yep.
And I know you've credited the hard-working folks here in the Flathead and in Kalispell that really built this business. They were loyal. They wanted to be here. They wanted to work here.
And yes, and I didn't even know that yet. But even there, I called Richie Ostrom. You got any of those buildings left for sale where they made the Bell campers? He says he had one left. He said he had 7,500 square feet, and he said I got a real estate syndicate offering me $64,000. I said I want 84. Got a real estate offering me 64. I don't want to sell it to them for that, but I'd sell it to you for that if you were coming up and employing people. That's just what he said. I said, well, that's what I got in mind. Can you hold it for me for a week? And he said, you bet. Calls me back the next day. Ray, the movie people are interested in prop storage, renting the building for prop storage. He said, I told him they could have met with your schedule for $1,000 a month, and I pass that on to you. Now, is this pushing along? And I said, well, I'm working out of 2,000 square feet here. They can have the front 3/4. I hadn't even seen the building yet. and he said, I'll tell them. And so I come up and looked at the building, bought it, and brought a machine shop up in June 9th, 1979. When I arrived here.
In California, what was actually a decent place
Oh,
still
yes.
at that
Oh, in
point.
fact, there was a building
But you were
down
from
there.
the Flathead. You wanted to
Yeah,
get back to the
I
Flathead.
wanted to get back
which,
home,
of course,
and
why
I'd
wouldn't
had
you?
240 people down there in my previous company, and 60 of them worked. Now, it isn't that there aren't good people down there. It's just they're all working for North American or Northrop, the big companies. You know, I was manufacturing, and a small company manufacturing, especially brand new. You know, it was a little harder
It's
to
just
find
a
people.
different work ethic up here. Before I forget, we got to get to the two things. I wanted to start with your two things. He's got two things
Right.
that he shared over breakfast and at another event that I've been at, and it really is just a great message about if you only remember two things
Yep.
from this podcast today, take away these two things. But first, Ray, I love going in to Sykes Diner. And I guess sometimes it's a Sunday morning, but it doesn't even need to be a Sunday morning. There's you over in the corner with a group of guys throwing ideas back and forth, some incredible guys around that table. And then there's some beautiful piano music being played. Your wife, Ladine's playing the piano.
Yep.
Talk about purchasing Sykes Diner. You had already sold Semitool at this point. You're very successful. You could take that money and go anywhere you want to in the world and hide from everybody, frankly, and do your own thing and really enjoy life, if that's what they say. But Sykes Diner had closed. That had been a place where,
Yep. Yep.
local senior citizens could go to. It was
Right.
kind of their place. You decided to get that place back up and running again.
Yep,
What has that place meant to you since that purchase?
It's just wonderful. I'm so thankful for it now. The reason I thought of it as the place, really, to think about is because it had a parking lot. We used that parking lot a few weeks ago here for this special Charlie Kirk thing.
That's right, yeah.
But and that's kind of the problem with downtown. They just don't have that parking. That's why the big buildings out they do have. Anyway, I talked to Doug Wise, who still had it, 93 years old. And the one thing I like about the story, he was only, there's all this property, buildings, and he was only asking $900,000. And I said, Doug, your price is right, but I'm going to make you a low offer, and it's because I'm going to put a bunch of money into the building. And I offered him $600,000. I'd like people to know this, and he took it. Not even a counter. And so I did it, and I got an architect to design a new building, and tore the old one down, most of it, added on to it, and and he was there. Doug was 93 at the time, and 94 when he finally died, I think. But he was able to see that I was doing what I said I was going to do. And it's such a wonderful thing for me to really pay back in some ways what I felt deeply indebted for, a wonderful debt, not a debt, to the Kalispell people for the fabulous job they did, not just for me, for our customers. And I'm talking worldwide, global customers. 55% of my business was overseas, total over the 30 years that I had it. And these men and women, they just made sure we were doing what we were supposed to do. And, I watched that. And
so before I forget it, the two things that I know you've been trying to convey to folks, there's two if you get a microphone at a big event, there's two things that you want to share with folks.
Yeah.
And it was really powerful the first time. I can't remember where I heard it. I just remember hearing it.
Two things that you want me to say?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you one. Every business requires two things. That's not the two things you're talking about. Without both, it'll die. I just had to tell that to a couple of my employees. And I say this to employees, consider yourself a business. And, hey, you're in America, free country. Why not? You're doing something. Everything it requires fun and profit. Now, it isn't always fun. It isn't always profitable. But in the long run, if you're not using the gift God gave you in your life, and you're not enjoying what you're doing for others because of that, go find something else. Fire the boss.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was just chatting with my wife the other day, and I don't know where she read this article, but obviously we're talking about politics and world events, and she said somebody apparently did this study, and they found that the candidates that are having more fun on the campaign trail are the ones that end up winning. People want to see people that are enjoying what they're doing, even if it is an important battle, an important fight. And boy, Donald Trump sure seems like he's having fun, doesn't he?
And working, but see, that's why freedom is important, because then that gives you the opportunities to, if it's not here, then it's over there. Gives you actually three things I have. When I was starting my first company, a guy walked into these offices. I was in his office, and it was all barren, 1971. And this guy's name was Milton Drano. And he looked around, and his address of his business was Heller Finance, 1 Wilshire Boulevard. He was president, out making cold calls. He looked around, and he says, "I've seen what makes a new company a startup company successful versus what makes them fail. You know what it was?" I said, "No." "What is it, Milton?" "Austere offices." He says, "If I see the plush carpet on the floor and the bar in the corner, they ain't going to make it. But if I see it like this," he says, "you have a chance." And I've seen that many times since. And that's where our education systems we could use that a lot, because when you got the austere offices or the plain and stuff, you've got no distraction from the customer to keep you focused on what that customer needs in order for you to be successful, to make him successful. The other one, when my previous company got up to about 100 people.
So fun and profit.
Fun and profit.
And these aren't even the two things that I was thinking of. These are two things when it comes to business.
That's right.
So we'll get to the other two things here in a little bit.
I'll give you my third thing, and if that wasn't it. So, and this was my previous business. I was 31 years old when I started my first one, 37 when I came up here, 84 in 2 weeks. But I was I was flying in the airplane going down to Dallas, and I was sitting next to this guy. I said, "I got 100 people." I said, "It really bugs me. I don't know what's going on out there in the shop anymore. I can't see what's happening." This guy said to me, "It doesn't matter what you know. What matters is that you're aware." 2 different words. Wow, did that calm me down? The awareness comes through your leaders out there, and they and you can grow it if you've got the leaders and they're knowledgeable. They make you aware. Just a little dumb thing like that really calmed me now. Now, what was it that you say that I need to?
Well, the two things, and I could actually go back to my Montana Talks website and pull it up, because this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. And the first one was, I think this was a sign that you had. Were you teaching Sunday school at a church down in, was it Huntington, California? And there was a sign on the wall of the church or of the Sunday school.
Oh, that's this one. Oh,
there we
yes.
go.
No, we were down there, Bob Thune, Senator John Thune's older brother, his church there. But we were sharing the parking lot with Wycliffe Bible translators. And that's where we had the adult Sunday school class. And yes, this is the best one. This one is great for us all. And up on the wall it said, "I slept and found that life. I slept and dreamt that life was duty. I awoke and found I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and found that life was duty. I acted, and behold, duty is joy." That's the one.
That's the one. That's the first one. I remember that one.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I love that. Because, again, freedom provides that kind of expectation. Duty is joy. And that's where I feel so sorry for what we call the homeless. The real problem is they're useless, and they need to have some purpose
they feel
in their
useless,
life.
yeah.
And if with that purpose, and see, free enterprise can bring that into your life, into their lives, and that purpose is that's what we really need to work on. And of course, you got to get them away from the drugs and all that stuff that in order to get that purpose. But the key in a free country is purpose.
Well, and how many people they've made a ton of money,
Yep.
they have a great job,
Yep.
everything seems to be perfect, and yet they still don't seem to be happy in life, and it's because they don't feel that sense of duty or fulfilling a mission. We've talked a lot about fellow veterans and how they struggle when taking
Yep.
the uniform off or coming back from
Yep.
a deployment. And they had a mission, they had camaraderie, they had this strong sense of purpose. And then now they're like, what am I doing in life? And so they need to reconnect with
Yep.
with a
job.
purpose, but also what their real identity in life is really all about. And that's a struggle for anybody, whether it's former soldiers, successful people, homeless individuals, anybody.
and-
What's our
And
purpose
when I
in
had
life?
all this money, I had by that time I had Jim Trebick's 270 acres, and I could have gone out there and built a big house on the bluff with all the gorgeous view and everything, and thought about it. But I could have bought a yacht. I thought about that one, but no, I like being with people, and that's where Sykes is such a wonderful thing for me. And the little machine shop I got, again, we're doing aerospace stuff and real high-end kind of things that because I've got those kind of machines and those kind of machinists. And again, that purpose and work that, and for me, see, it's because I've had all these fabulous people, I've never worked a day in my life. Well, that's not true. Hey, where it's work for me as the owner of the company and the top guys, when we're in the semiconductor equipment business, you had you go big, get big, and then it was going sliding back down. And boy, when you're laying off people, but again, that's where profit's important. You got some money in the bank, so you don't just chop them off. You can send some money with them to give them some time. And I really felt bad about that up here because they didn't have any company to go down the street to go, get.
And I remember you talking at the time after you had made the
Yeah.
decision to sell to Applied Materials, and you explained that roller coaster of profits and how what you were hoping for was that stability would be delivered, because you were thinking about your
Because they
employees
had
that
many of
if this company comes in, you won't have this roller coaster. You'll have this steady level of business. And so, it was just so fascinating to hear that at the time. I'm trying to remember what the other one of the two things was.
Yeah.
If you don't recall off the top of your head, I know I can go right to my website and pull it up on my phone real quick. I know we're unscripted around here,
Right.
but these two things are just so important. Here we go. Do you want me to tee it
Sure,
up for you?
sure.
Okay, so this is going back to, I think I was at a Lincoln Reagan Trump dinner back
you were up there,
when
right?
was this? Oh, and then we had you call into the radio show and share the two things back in October of 2024, right before the big 2024 elections. Okay, so you said the first one, which was, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and found that life was duty. I acted, and behold, duty is joy. And I've thought about that one so much to where, like, joining the military after 9/11, I can think of a lot of things that I didn't like about the military or being gone away from my family, but it was such an honor and so many, it was just joy is the word you use when you look back on, like, wow, I had the honor to serve with some of the most incredible men and women out there.
Yes.
And I remember there was one. It was I think it was a Thanksgiving dinner, and we were with some friends at Thanksgiving, and their son was deployed, and they got to get on a phone call with their son who was deployed. And I remember getting kind of choked up because I was sitting there thinking how happy I was to be with my family, but I also heard how sad he was to not be with his family. Yeah. But I remember also thinking, like, wow, I'm glad to be here with my family, but it also made me remember how lucky I was to be with soldiers at Christmas time.
Amen.
And so it reminded me of the Tool Time home improvement show quote, where the guy who you'd only see his eyes over the fence, and he said, when on adventure, man dreams of home, and when at home, man dreams of adventure. And so I just thought about that. I was like, wow, here I am home with my family. He's away from his family right now, but one day he's going to look back on this and be so thankful that he got to serve alongside America's best and during the holidays even. What was the other one here? Let's see. Oh, the other one you have is about being excited about making someone else successful. Yeah.
Yes, that's the key to success of your business. When you when you sit and listen to a guy who has a need that you can fill. The other is when he talks about something and he doesn't know about how to get this done, but you do, and it's some other company, and so you tell him, and the nice thing about that, you've just put in the keystone of trust, which is what America's about, because you didn't make it. But if it's something that you don't do, but you're all set up that you could do, you could make one, and then so you come back and you get these people to do this job, and in fact, these fabulous people. I'll give you the best example. I had dinner in Dresden, Germany, with AMD, a good customer, but my machines he had there were a little obsolete by this time. He told me how, and I had an idea of how we could fix that, but it was going to take a whole new machine. So I left Dresden at 10 and arrived here at 2. Have my own airplane. Had it in my the boardroom. I had 12 engineers in there. Told them we were going to have a BHAG. BHAG. Big, humongous, audacious goal. That's a Tom Peters thing.
I thought that was
mine.
A German word there for a second.
Yeah, right. And told them what we're going to do. We're going to build a whole new $3 million machine from scratch. The BHAG is you got a week of design, we got a week of fabrication, a week of assembly, and the customer's going to be here to see it. and I know these guys I'm talking to, they're taking notes with their hands on the table. A couple of them lifted their hands, vibrated. Hey, boss, maybe we better get started.
Ready to get working.
That was the, and of course I knew this attitude would be, it was there, and attitude is 90% of it.
Yeah.
But being excited about making someone else they were excited because this was a whole new machine. And the reason we needed to do it quick, we weren't sure whether it would even work when we got it done. But
so two business things we heard today was focus on having fun and profit.
Yeah.
And that's two keys to success in business. And then just in life in general, life is duty, but duty is where you find the joy in life. Yeah. And then the other one is enjoy making somebody else successful or seeing somebody else be successful. Yeah, like all four. Now we got 4 things. I got to memorize all 4 of these now.
These are the keys to why America, and it's attitudinal stuff, and why America accomplishes and is great. I made Seagate very successful with a machine that we built for them. And
they had the USB drives early on, right?
And they were
hard drives,
this was the read-write head that they were making. That we gave them a machine that did something that nobody else could do. A very complex chemical machine, and I loved not going to their competition, Western Digital and Hitachi. I owned the company, and we had plenty of business. I loved making them successful. See, and
instead of just looking for a quick buck with anybody,
right? Being on their team, because again, that's a part of the fun is kind of a cheap word, but and I loved owning the company, so we could have those moments of being excited about making someone else successful.
We started about how you enjoy making folks successful in politics and in the political arena, and that's, I think, probably a big part of your sense of duty is fighting for the future of the country.
Yes.
Charlie Kirk, I know one of the first trips he did here to Montana, he came to Sykes, and I think you got a chance to meet him.
Oh, we had him speaking to a group, not a particularly large group, down in the meeting room in the basement. Yeah, I've got a video of that.
And do you remember that? And as you've seen Charlie Kirk develop over the years, I mean, he was a teenager before he was assassinated
19
at
years
31 years old. Yeah. What do you remember about the very, very young Charlie Kirk? Because he was still young.
Unbelievable in his giftedness and his parents' teaching and his learning in communication right from the beginning. It was smooth. It was, in fact, you wondered if it was future George Washington, but it wasn't elaborate. It was humble. He had all of the, and again, this was when he was very young, and then we got him out here again in 2020, and at that time he had about 740 people he was talking to, and again, just. I really believe by that time he was, 26 or something. If they didn't have the rule of you have to be a certain age to be elected president, to be run for president, I think we would have ran him. Because along with his wonderful communication ability, and giftedness, was his humility, humbleness, and it wasn't fake.
Yeah, he was the real, genuine deal.
Yes, there was nothing. In fact, that's one of the problems with these people that are giving advice to the people up front to do this or do that or be that. No. To be yourself is the key. And this is, it'd be better off to be a Trump with all these people that can't stand him, but they can't say that he isn't who he is.
Yeah, he's being real. He's being
real.
Yep, the same guy on camera as he is off camera. Yeah, exactly. And so I know you ended up, Sykes in the parking lot hosted the Charlie Kirk celebration of life shortly after the assassination occurred.
Yes.
What stood out to you? I mean, there was an incredible young lady, 18 years old, from here in Whitefish. I mean, she was incredible. And I guess your reaction on just the impact of Charlie Kirk's assassination and what that means for the future of our country and what you heard from people that day or since that day.
Yes, she was amazing. She reminded me of treble clef Charlie Kirk, female voice.
Yeah.
But I mean, that same sense of values of the people she was talking to, and communication. It was wonderful. And I hadn't talked to her. That meeting was, again, a great thing. That meeting was totally planned, and I didn't know a word about it until the afternoon before. And again, I love that, to have these people have confidence in what I would want and I would agree with and approve of and all that. And at Semitool, I had so much of that. We had a big annual meeting up here in various places that Paul Siberud put together, and he did it himself totally. Peaks and Packaging, we called it. These people would come here to go to the park, as a visit, but they would sit, and there was like 250 or so from all over the world come to talk about packaging the chip. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think it was Gracie Stogsdale is her name, 18 years old.
Yes.
She planned that whole event. She was the first speaker, and boy, she could have been the only speaker that day. But I think what stood out to me was that the week prior I had I had been a speaker at the Montana Capitol 9/11 ceremony, and I talked about being on Capitol Hill during the 9/11 terror attacks.
Yes.
And pardon my French here, but this is just the only way I can think to describe it. But, after the terrorist attacks occurred and we thought Capitol Hill was still going to be a potential target, we all could not be in our offices in the U.S. Senate, and my apartment was too close to the Capitol, so we all just gathered at a friend's house. And all we could do is just sit there and watch the smoke come up from the Pentagon, when the Pentagon had been attacked. And I just remember sitting there and just being pissed off and powerless.
Yes.
And pissed off and powerless were the words that I thought of. But I think that's how everybody felt. They felt they were angry, but they also felt powerless all across this country. And I felt that same anger on 9/10 when Charlie Kirk was assassinated right before 9/11. But I didn't feel powerless. because of people like Charlie Kirk, and because you could see the young people that were inspired by Charlie Kirk. And then on top of that, I've been so inspired by the people I've gotten a chance to get to meet, since the 9/11 terror attacks as a result of service. People like, the founder of Deliver Fund, who's letting us use their podcast studios today, a guy who grew up in Billings and then served in the Air Force, and then when he was a CIA guy. I mean, it's just like you met so many people like this, and so it has me so optimistic for the future of America.
Amen.
I'll bet there was a few years ago where you were wondering what the future of America was going to look like.
Well, yes, but the thing is, I had context globally, in terms of my customers in Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, Germany, and I had that context. And of course, from a commercial standpoint, it was only that view, but I knew also how we were doing things, together. In China, I had quite a few machines in fact, I had a great friend in Shanghai that, in fact, his wife went to BSF in China back then. And he
which is a Bible study program.
In fact, the only reason he did his company, SMIC, Semiconductor Manufacturing in China, was they asked him to come because of what he did in Taiwan. And he said, yes, if I could have a church for my employees. And they said, back then, they said, yes.
Wow. Have you heard from him ever since then?
No, I have not. And
wow.
Yeah, when I kind of lost track when I sold, but
because of course Montana now has a very close relationship with Taiwan, and but big changes in the semiconductor industry. Do you still kind of keep a close eye on the industry?
I don't. I keep a very distant eye.
What keeps Ray Thompson busy day to day now?
Well, that's the wonderful conversations I have at Sykes.
Yeah, tell us about that group and just some of what you've picked up.
We used to have a big group there, but they're down to just 3 or 4 of us. They're gone, and died. I had one die just 2 weeks ago, and we're just gotten old. But I still have a lot of others. John Fuller this morning I had a nice conversation.
I saw John Fuller at the gym.
Yeah.
He was a Vietnam veteran, and he did some crazy special operation stuff in Vietnam, and then he comes back to the Flathead, and he's a school teacher. And then he runs for the legislature.
Yes, about talking about that, I was able to do a deal with operations because I was a privately held international company, so that was I could uniquely. And when 9/11 came, I called my guy that I was talking to, and I said, if you need my airplane in Europe, it's yours. No question asked if it could help, But, it's we're in it together is the thing, and the nice thing about free enterprise, free country. We do what we can to make each other successful, to lift each other up. And the Christian that Charlie and the biblical and Christian side of that is very key. It's we're that way because we're told to be that way and made to be that way, and government is not our God.
Yeah, I think I heard Erica Kirk at the Presidential Medal of Freedom ceremony.
Yeah.
I think she quoted Charlie Kirk when he said something about freedom without faith eventually destroys itself.
Yeah.
When a lot of people were very concerned about the future of our country a few years ago, you kind of made it sound like you weren't too concerned because you've traveled the world, because you've seen the world and a little bit of the history of America as well. What about your business and work around the world made you not lose hope in the future of America?
Because of the integrity, and the honesty and of my customers around the world. I love doing business with Siemens, with and of course I was doing business with the IBM, the top 500, companies, but they had what really amounted to biblical and Christian rules, if you want to use that word, things of methods of doing whatever they were doing, and some at much more highly integrity than others, really. Some there was IBM in the early days. They were the number 10. You were thankful for any business you did with them. As that changed, and that's the other thing. Companies would change. TI was a fabulous company and one of my first customers. And when their original founders were they were absolute integrity. See, and integrity is a key part of both the supplier and the customer, both. And there's a lot of reason in the definition of what turns out to be success. There's a lot of reasons for integrity to be a key part of the process. And why? Because what is the end result that's good? You can compete. Your customer. In fact, with the Micron Tech, that was great. They were making their little RFD chip. It's cheap, a lot cheaper because of my machine getting higher yield than Hitachi or than Samsung, their customer over there, and so they could lower the price and still make money. See, but again, integrity, and I so loved having relationships with. In our conversations, when we talked about my machine and things that it needed to be fixed or needed to do better or something, again, you just loved having that open conversation, and they weren't angry, and I wasn't trying to push it off, because when we got done, and a couple times I had the profits. In fact, I built some machines for HP that were special for them, but they had a flaw in them, and I called them up and said, guys, we're going to send you new machines. This was over in Corvallis, by the way. And you put the old machines in a box and send them back. But again, I had the money. It wasn't anything that we couldn't do. It was something we needed to do. I figured I'd make 10 or 15 machines a month when I came up here. That's one of the reasons I thought I'd.
What was your toughest day?
Huh?
What was your toughest day in your career? Toughest day in business?
I don't know. I had, my toughest time was when I had to cut back, lay people off. Yeah. But, I don't remember those days too well.
Yeah, you try to forget those days. Or on the flip side,
I don't call it failure anymore. By the way, this is one of I would give your listeners this little bit of thing. In free enterprise and I don't call it failure or mistakes. I call it tuition. And it's important that you're able to afford it.
You just paid your tuition.
You're able to afford it, see? And if it took out of your profit, and you learned something, that's tuition. And again, free market.
I was interviewing a young lady. She's probably I think she's in high school now, but she was in junior high. She was like a sixth grader or something. She was, getting gold medals in boxing as a sixth grader, junior high kid.
Whoa.
And I don't know what I asked her, but I loved her response. She said, kind of another two things type thing. She says, I don't lose. She says, I either win or I learn, but I don't lose.
Oh, that's perfect. See?
And I think there's a lot of athletes that I think have used that, but it was the first time that it had really stood out to me. And that was such a great line.
I learn or I win.
How many times?
That's the same thing.
Because if you think you lose, then you give up, and I lost, I give up, and you quit. But it's like, no, everybody is going to have a series of tuition payments, I guess we'll call them now. We're not going to call it failures. We're not, it's just, I had to pay a little tuition yesterday.
And then that's where profit is important again. You can afford the tuition.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why when I made a new machine, and most of the time, but there were times where the customer really didn't want it. It didn't work. And so, okay. Yeah.
Of all the, it's so fun catching up here with Ray Thompson, the founder of Semitool, and just a great guy all around, not just hearing business tips, but life insights as well. You got to travel a little bit for work, and I know you've gotten to travel a little bit for fun as well. You're a pilot, so I know you've flown in some cool aircraft as well. But what's some of the more memorable trips, or do you have one of what's your favorite trip that you and Ladine maybe have gone on, or maybe you were on a business trip?
We had 19 trips to Grindelwald, Switzerland. We stayed there over the years, and I would spend a week there and then go on over. And we built I built a factory in Salzburg, Austria, and that was just a wonderful thing. The people, again, great workers, great people, and they designed and built stuff for the European market. And but I guess a memorable trip would be coming back from Korea, going to Petropavlovsk, Kamchatka for fuel, and I was being escorted in the dark of night by MiGs. Didn't like that too well.
And you were flying?
Yes.
Wow.
I was flying.
Yeah.
Our Falcon 900.
I was going to say Kamchatka. Most of us only know that if we were playing the board game Risk back in the 1980s. That's
right,
the only reason we know
peninsula.
Kamchatka that way. Yeah.
And Petropavlovsk was, so we fueled up there and came on home. But I had 45 people in Dresden, and I liked going there. It was kind of interesting how East Germany became West Germany, and how that changed as the Saxony government put a lot of money into the chip business. My main office in Europe was in Cambridge, England, and that was always enjoyable to go to.
Incredibly historic place. Well, if you could leave our listeners, or I guess it'd be viewers for today, if you could leave them with one thing, or if you got anything else you want to tell folks.
Well, I've pretty much laid all of that. Everything is on me. But other than to say this, I happily say this, and because it's true too. I get way too much credit for initiative and that, and as it turned out in my life, it's been easy for me to respond to that put in front of me, to use my gifts, when we got married, I went right after that. I went to work for Douglas Aircraft. The top guy, the guy headed up the old S4B project of the Saturn V for Douglas. He remembered me, saw my application, remembered me from my 1 year at Santa Monica High School, because he had a daughter and two daughters, and we were out at their house a couple times in Malibu. But she played second French horn, I played first French horn in the band. But he gave me a call, and arranged for me to be hired.
So you didn't even have to toot your horn. He already remembered you
that's
from
right.
the French horn.
That's right. And he learned, and that's where I learned all the how to do everything I do. I did. And then I went for the Teflon company again. A guy called me, a friend. He needed somebody to design stuff out of Teflon, and I did that again. And then we started our own company, and I got let go again from that. And 78, started Semitool, brought it up here in 79. But then these fabulous people up here, I just cannot tell you how, and because of my previous experience, I know that, but again, integrity and honesty and no fear. They could handle difficult moments. And of course there were a lot of that, because this was all brand new up here, But I saw that and experienced that. So it was. I cannot overemphasize and encourage what we have here. And I want to say this: I give credit to the farm and ranch community for that.
Yeah, that grit.
Kids raised in that kind of environment, and then you add FFA to it, and that just makes it all the better. Those are the many of them who I had working for me, and oh my goodness, they were just they could handle.
You just got to figure it out. Well, I think there's part of it is that when you work at a younger age,
yes,
I think, when I was a little kid, my grandparents ran the newspaper in Glasgow, Montana.
Wow.
So I got to go in and stuff newspapers and then help deliver newspapers. And so I got to earn money at a young age. And I think it's one of the
Amen.
best things that could happen to me. And for farm and ranch kids, that's what you do. You start working at a very young age, and you just got to figure it out.
You put the crop down, and then the weather's bad, and it doesn't, or the calf comes out dead, and these things, and you learn about them, and that's what life is. So you go to engineering and a class at, or not a class, to get engineering at Bozeman, and every problem has a right answer, yada yada, and so they, that's not life, but they understand that. See.
That's right. Well, do you still have some tuition payments left in you think, in life? A few tuition, but are you still paying as much tuition now as you did when you were younger, or have you pretty much got life all figured out?
What I have to be careful of is, and that's why I'm saying I'm not a retired, it's true, but on the other hand, I am a retread. But the difference being you can only drive it down the road so fast, and you can only load it up so much, or else the bumper flies off right onto the highway. And so I don't. I just, in fact, I've never been really a doer. I've had these people around me and I would suggest that we do this or do that, and man, they get to it. I'm even less of that now.
Well, Ray Thompson, it's such an honor catching up with you. We greatly appreciate your
pleasure.
time, and especially it's great to see you. I know we've gotten to hear you over the years, but it's even better to get to see you here today.
Well, I'm blessed out of my socks, so I don't look forward to winter. No socks.
Well, great to see you. Thanks so much for your time here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron.